Hey guys, this is a quick video. I'm just talking about the state of the world at large right now. So there's a lot of craziness going on. There's certainly elements from everything that's sort of being thrown into the melting pot of distraction right now. One of the things that I would like to talk about really briefly is the fact that slavery is hot on everybody's mind, and the slave trade itself never really went away. And so, when we look at the history of the world, there have been criminal organizations which essentially abused other people to their own means for their own purposes, and that continues to happen. To give you an example, this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, he obviously didn't kill himself. He was arrested before and he was let off by the Department of Justice, which doesn't just happen. So you have collusion and you have complicit individuals within our own government that are participating in this kind of activity, covering it up. This is no surprise to anybody who knows anything about the CIA, that they do things to corrupt others, to manipulate, to control them, because they would prefer not to kill them, to replace them. They would rather have an asset in place for as long as possible because that's how you get the most versatility. So when we're looking at the world where the United States has 1,000 military bases all over the planet and various essentially drop points, these are the networked infrastructure for criminal activity. There are elements of our government which operate behind an anonymous black box shield. They're not held to account for what they spend or what they spend it on. So you have gold and drugs and people, children, weapons, all being distributed to various criminal elements all over the planet because of the fact that essentially the way that you get into the darker aspects of our government is to do things which would otherwise be considered completely illegal. So it's the acknowledgement that we do a lot of things around the world which are quite destructive and are very harmful to a great number of people. And simultaneously, we don't think that that corruption will ever come back. So now we're seeing that if you look, on average, there's about 800,000 children that go missing, reported missing in the United States every year. In the United States, just the United States. And last year, there was only about 432,000. Now, what that tells me is that with the coming forward of all this Jeffrey Epstein and the other people that are being exposed as predators, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the collapse of the false reality that has been perpetrated upon humanity, and the people who have been manipulating other human beings for as long as it's been a thing. These people are like vampires, and so they feed on people, and they have protectors who are crazy for power. These are like the werewolves. So we have these analogies that help us understand that there are darker aspects to human consciousness that can easily become manifest if given unlimited capacity as far as cooperation and unlimited anonymity. So when you give people a perfect mask and an unlimited power, they will do some things that are not inherently good for the people at large. And I think that that's really what we're seeing is we had an entire infrastructure of criminal activity all over the world that effectively was being financed by a central institution that leverages countries, which leverage governments, which leverage people. So the entire world has been living in this tax farm where human life and all life is subject to extraction of value or profit. And we're coming to an end of this kind of living because there are fewer and fewer people who will ultimately support it. And I believe right now, governments around the world are working internally to make these kinds of changes, which is the reason why it would make sense that there are almost half as many children gone missing. Because slavery is real. It happens right now, today, and it happens in the United States. And as we acknowledge that, and as we understand that the criminals who operate with anonymity for power and money are not very much different than the legal agents that operate for power and money. And I think we're seeing all that come to light, and it's scaring a lot of people who had so much faith in the presented image of government and seeing the reality of what's happening underneath that mask and all the hideous, heinous things that have happened in the name of liberty and justice for some. And we're seeing that backlash come home to roost, and that's all that's happening. We, as a species, are going to move through this. It's like a shell. We're breaking through it and hatching into something new. So don't be afraid. It's actually a really exciting time right now as the veil comes crashing down.